without further ado, I want to share my screen. Give me a sec, guys. And the idea here is to go a little bit into what Voodoo proposes today as a publisher in hyper casual, and what that means for you as a studio, no matter whether you're a 1 or 2 person studio or whether you're a 20-person studio or more. What we've prepared for you in terms of our proposition for 2020 is, we think, something that's really strong that will resonate with studios, not just from kind of a tech support or a product perspective or a monetization perspective, but really the full suite of services that we propose and that we've built out over the last, especially over the last year. And that's kind of what what we call the publishing funnel. So before I jump into that, I just want to go back to product for a sec, because a lot of people turn to us, whether it's on our weekly live streams that we share with our community of studios and devs, or even the broader community. They turn to us for trends and past trends and the trends that are upcoming. And I want to talk about that because I think it has an impact on how we operate. And so as we look back, over the last couple of years, starting with maybe, idle games 2-3 years ago, and the fact that they came all the way up in the charts, games like Will It Crush or Planet Bomber were quite successful. Moving on to incremental games like Soccer Kick or a host of incremental games. Baseball Boy was super successful, Flying Arrow, and Stone Skimming. All these games that you see here, the reason I'm bringing them up is not so much to say, yes, there have been trends, and those trends tend to come and go. And the gameplay genre is maybe a part of that trend. But it's more to say, actually, the first games that are published within these trends are so powerful, and really being creative, the concept of freshness, and those games themselves. So Will It Crush, and then Baseball Boy, and then Hole.io in terms of the full suite of IO games, then maybe Roller Splat for the hyper casual puzzle games. Then you saw Aquapark in the racer genre, and then more recently, maybe in the Race Runner, you had Push 'Em All, a simulation. Wood Turning was a massive game, and in the drawing section, you had games like Draw Car, which Draw Climber came in kind of in the wake of that game and was super successful as well. But generally speaking, a trend is almost more like a game that is so successful that the community of devs and studios focus on that gameplay, but actually the first games to come out in those categories are super important. And that's why we've decided to focus heavily on creativity, on the ideation phase, and on really giving studios the tools to effectively ideate, because we see this as just as important as bearing in mind trends. And so this is a piece of the publishing pipeline, or the publishing funnel that we've described. And the reason that's so crucial is that if we look at some of our games last year, so you can see Roller Splat, by Neon Play, and then Orbital Knights, Castle Wreck, and Crazy Kick, games like Dig This, and Bikes Hill, Push 'Em All by OHM, and Racket Spell and Dig This, creative duos that produced, say, Aquapark and Flip Dunk with Cassette and Tapped, and then a range of single dev games. The key point of this slide is everyone can make it. And we need to continue to serve single devs and duos in a way that's different to the way we are helping and teaming up with larger studios. And we continue to do that, but our publishing funnel is very much focused on all of the teams. And we have different kind of commercial solutions, tech solutions, capabilities that we've designed internally to make sure that we are relevant to absolutely everyone in the market, because everyone has a role to play. Everyone can publish a massive, massive hit. Aquapark was one of our biggest hits, and Corin and Edgar, only 2 guys, did a fantastic job on that hit last year. Now, what does that mean for publishing in 2020 for all of you guys out there currently? We think that the key here is that, we want to focus in on testing. So you need the proper tools as a studio, you need the proper support. Tools include everything from a dashboard, which we've just completely revamped, very low bugs. Our testing platform is super operational. We have similar testing protocols, but we've refined them. And we've gone into deeper testing guidelines, testing metrics. We look at way more things than we used to. We look obviously at retention, play time, CPI, as you know, but we go deeper into things like, obviously CTR, CPM, the way everyone kind of does these days. And then we look at more advanced, analytics within GA and otherwise. We start looking at retention funnels and various things, so that basically you don't have to do that yourselves. The second thing we have really focused on is making sure to enhance our launching process. So we have a variety of different launch types that correspond to our understanding of your game, what's best for it. Is it a launch where we're improving the product in the next 2 weeks? Is it a launch where actually our big focus on CPI, and so we'll involve a large marketing team on it, and we'll work on the playable, on the obviously on various rush videos and creatives. Is it a launch that we absolutely need to scale very quickly because it shows so much promise that we need to get millions of downloads within a week? So we've really refined and segmented the different types of launches so that each week we have various launches that are going out, and they match the kind of status of your game, no matter where your game is. Launching fast with lower KPIs is often an advantage because it means that you can test live, test off of LTV, and that you can improve your game faster than you would if you were just in the testing phase. We've also really revamped our product capabilities, which means that you're not alone, even with your publishing manager. So the publishing team in general is heavily involved on product from day one and from day -1 in the ideation phase. We also involve broader teams within the Voodoo ecosystem. We have a range of internal studios, in Berlin and Barcelona, in London, in Montpellier, and so forth, in Amsterdam. And we really leverage those studios to get learnings and to get support where we need it most on your games. We also have strong internal teams that are devoted to launches. So it's the launch ops team. They can help from anything to A/B tests to the visuals to, how do I launch Android and optimize it as fast as possible? And that not only accelerates the process, most of the time it really helps with the metrics themselves and helps to get to that scaled launch phase as quickly as possible. Which brings me to the scaling phase and the marketing capabilities that we've revamped as well. Our teams are designed right now to address your game's challenge, if there is one at any time, whether it's on the playable, whether it's on the creatives or the rush videos, whether it's on a certain geography, like building partnerships in China. We've really revamped the process in order to make the most of your game, holding the product equal. And then finally, the long-term retention features and, that product capability really starts kicking in as well in the scaling phase. What is the meta for my game? How do I keep users engaged for, not only days or weeks, but months? And we've really managed to compile a list of best practices, best processes, as well as internal teams to help us leverage all the potential of the game and add these layers of retention effectively to live games. The final stage, but probably not the least important in studios' phase, is what does that mean for me? Okay, what do downloads mean for me? So what if my game scales? Well, at Voodoo, just coming back on something that the previous presenter mentioned, at Voodoo we are very much a payout-focused publisher, which means that we only find ourselves relevant when the payouts are large. And luckily today we very much are relevant. and we're able to effectively, give studios the rewards that they've deserved, and which in turn enables them typically to scale and to increase the size of their studios, of their teams. And that's really a journey that we want to be on for the long term. We want to be behind our studios, and we're built for long-term partnerships because of all the investment and the time that we do up front. Not only from obviously our passion for awesome games, but also our passion for the studios we work with, and the work that they do. We tend to feel like we're part of their team, and them scaling feels like us getting bigger as well. So just coming back to what that means in terms of our capabilities. So this is more of a view of Voodoo's capabilities and how that integrates into your process. If you look at the far left of this diagram, you have kind of the idea phase. So, okay, I want to do a game about kind of going down a slide with water on it and competing with other people. That's the idea phase. And it often comes these days with CTR testing. So, does this idea have legs? I don't want to design a full game for it. I'm going to build a video that's very representative of the game, test it, see if there's legs. If there is, then I'm going to build out the game with a degree, as you said, like with a degree of certainty, depending on your CTR. If it's 0.3, you're going to be spending more time than it's 0.5%, or sorry, 5% CTR. All those things are moving parts, and the reason we've built out a 10 and growing publishing team just focused on product and on studios, even if you put everything else to the side, is that all these decisions are so important, and they're so kind of particular to your game, to where you are, that you need eyes on these decisions. And that's what we've done. Same for the CPI test. If you're testing at 30 cents, that's a great sign. And we can get that lower oftentimes. If you're testing at 70 cents, maybe that's a kill. Maybe something's been overlooked in the process, and we tend to check that as well. But the key here is flexibility. We've really improved our ability to be flexible and pragmatic with KPIs, because in 2019 or 2018, even more so, what was 55 day 1, 22 day 7, and say 25 cents CPI has become very different today. We've noticed that games that have lower KPIs, I don't know, take Aqua Park as an example, we were around 48 day 1, 17 day 7. Those are very strong metrics for sure, but never would we have thought in 2018 that kind of a game gets you the scale and the success that the game saw, for various reasons. So we do look at metrics in a very pragmatic and flexible way now. So the KPIs that you do reach when you're successful, and I'm going to try to leave a little bit of time for questions, but the KPIs that you do reach are flexible. So we tend to see 45 and 13, day 1, day 7, as a pretty good indication that the game will sustain scale if it's marketable. That is flexible. You could be at 40, 12 for all I know, or 40, 10 with a fantastic CPI. So we look at each metric very much individually, which brings us to soft launch, full launch, and optimization. I won't go into the detail here because it gets quite granular. The important thing is publishing team and your publishing manager is with you along the journey during that process. Marketing teams come in after launch, but are extremely involved in the life of the game post-launch. We have co-production, that's our internal studios that help us on your games in order to go faster and to improve retention. And we have, of course, our launch ops team that help you in the launch of a game and the technical integrations, but also the A/B testing, and our live ops team that come in kind of in those long-term retention features and guidelines and metagames that help you on your game. So there really is a mix of teams involved on every single game at Voodoo. And we figured out if we want to be flexible, we also have to be very present. What does that mean for a typical game that you might come with us? Well, if you look at Spiral World, the first idea, which is on the very left here, was the CTR test. Very basic, but quite simple and clear representation of a game. Gave us quite good CTR. Then we moved on to the first and second and third versions. This is the second screenshot you see with an interesting reward system. We worked on that, drawing insights from other games with the studio himself and the publishing manager. And then we brought in some more of the capabilities that I just discussed, including the the launch ops team, as well as our internal studio capabilities. And this really helped us drive visual and kind of game feeling improvements in the game, as well as marketability improvements. And those just carried on and kind of snowballed as we went along. So the features that we pushed on Spiral Roll were, in a way, a result in part of this process. Why do I mention this and why is it important? Well, the payouts that are that tend to be multi-million-dollar payouts to our studios result in our teams being able to scale up. And the importance of scaling up, going back to the chart that I showed you about sample games in 2019. So we realized actually, while anyone can publish a very, very successful hyper-casual game, the advantage of doing so when you are a larger team is that the likelihood of doing so relatively quickly and with abundance is higher the bigger you are, which means that we're in a great position to support our single and duo devs to scale up through these massive and well-rewarded payouts. So I think, unless I'm mistaken, that was basically it. I think I want to open up the floor to Chris's questions. And before we do so, just a quick reminder, don't hesitate. If you're interested in hyper-casual games, more importantly, if you have maybe a video of a first prototype or a game that you might have that's live, please do go on our publishing website. It's very quick. We pick up requests very fast. And so don't hesitate to head on there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Alexander. That was really good. Very insightful. And hopefully that's answers a lot of questions, but we do have some more.
Yes.
So I'm going to run through these and I'm going to fire them at you and you can answer what you can answer.
Awesome.
We can still keep adding. We've got 5 already. We've got no, I mean, we can go on as long as we want, really. There's nothing after us now, so we're not delaying anybody. Due to the fact that compatibility, I think that means competitivity, affects hyper-casual publishing negatively, don't you think publishing deals of paying retainers and revenue share should change?
Sorry, don't we think that what, sorry?
That publishing deals of paying retainers and revenue share should change.
I guess it's a tricky question. I want to make sure I fully understand it before addressing it.
I think they're saying it's a very competitive market, so should the publisher developer model change? I've not got a cat in this fight. I'm not.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great question. Thank you for worrying about our business model. But the most important thing for us is we need to make sure that we continue, as we have in 2020, by the way, to hand out multi-million-dollar payout on games. That's critical for us because it means that our business model is working, and we don't have to work on on anything else really if it's just that. And so, obviously we have worked on a lot of things in order to enable that. But what we've seen in the market is that, yes, retentions are coming down. So what was 55, 2 years ago is probably now 45, let's say, day one. And what was 22 is probably 14, 15, let's say. But it's more tricky than that. So as I said, Aquapark was a massive success, and it was launched alongside other games that had better retention metrics and probably playtime as well. The fact is that scale and success and virality and a host of other factors are more complex than they were. But the successes that we're seeing today through flexible KPIs are just as big as they were a year or two ago. So to answer the question in a long-winded way, no, our model is the same because our economics are the same. The only thing that we've changed a little bit probably is focus on improving our contracts kind of on a quarterly basis to make sure that the payouts are reflecting the greater scale that we're seeing in geographies like China. And so we've recently included China as a part of our download bonuses for payouts. So we do adjust, but we think the market's getting bigger, not smaller.
That was a very, very considered and long answer. Thank you for that. That was
no, I'll be quicker.
We're just working this way. This works for us. What kind of exclusivity do you ask for when working with developers?
So none. I mean, we're not about locking in studios for the simple reason that if we can't retain our philosophy is if you're not staying with us, you probably have a good reason for it. And we don't want to interfere with that. So if you're, the only exclusivity that we exercise is essentially a right of first refusal on your prototypes. So let's say that you tested something with us and it had phenomenal KPIs and we love the product. We'll probably end up publishing it, and we would like a right of first refusal on that publishing deal for a game that we've worked on together. The rest is really yours to decide what you do with. The reason studios come back to us is they particularly enjoy, I think, the publishing funnel that we just presented, and obviously the relationships that we've built together.
Great, good answer again. You mentioned the CTR test. Can you explain the process and let us know what is the CTR required?
So the CTR testing is something that we've rolled out, and we're rolling out carefully. We've tested it over hundreds of instances in order to really correlate CTR to CPI as best as we can, looking at a range of metrics. What you need to remember here is CTR is available at Voodoo. It's something we're rolling out carefully. And sorry, the second part of the question was?
Sorry, I've lost it now. Brilliantly. Hold on a second. I answered it. I think it was what CTR was needed.
Yeah. Once again, it comes back to flexibility. So if someone is telling you, "Oh, you have a 5% CTR, that's amazing. Your game is a unicorn, or a fantastic game," yes, 5% is good. But we've established probabilities based on the exact CPIs you're getting, but also a range of other metrics, which, by the way, will be integrated relatively shortly into our Publidash, our publishing dashboard for all studios that work with us. So the idea is, let's eliminate the noise where studios don't need it. What we are working on is obviously analytics and data, and we've built out large teams that are working on this, and it's getting deployed shortly. We do use CTR, but it's on an ad hoc basis today.
Fantastic. Do you plan to publish word games?
Well, you tell me. We're interested in word games. We're interested in every game. You saw the chart a second ago. You saw 2048 balls on there, and that can be considered a puzzle game for sure. Word games that have low CPIs. I mean, the key is, have you found a way of making your word game hyper casual in its marketability? Is there a hyper casual core loop? If there is, then it is a hyper casual game. Yeah.
Right. Do you think that meta game features can change retention drastically?
We think we haven't, as a community, as a hyper casual community of publishers, yet cracked the real long-term retention features on meta games. But we at Voodoo are starting to see very positive early results. Once again, all of our studios will benefit from this as soon as the results are proven.
Right.
We're careful to deploy, and it depends on the game, but we're very hopeful on that front. And we're working on drawing as many insights as we can to share them as quickly as possible with the community.
I guess in a broadly similar, I guess, what has Voodoo learned from Archero hitting the market? Obi talks about Archero as the new hybrid casual. Where does that tell us about where the market is, the hyper casual market stands today?
Yeah, so I think no, we have discussed it, of course. Our core competence is around hyper casual. It's the way our models work, and we've been very, very successful to date, and we continue to be. We are developing, it's no secret, we have developed internal casual game studios that are focusing on these types of games.
Yeah.
And that are working day in, day out to discover, how does that meet hyper casual, and where is the value not only for us as a studio in a sense, but for Voodoo as a publisher. So you can be sure that the minute we've identified really actionable insights into casual or deep casual, or however you want to call it, Archero type games, the minute we've drawn those insights, they go out to all of our studios internally, so our partners, because a lot of them are showing, significant interest in the area. So sign up and you'll get a good answer to that, I think, within 6 months.
Okay, got a couple more questions and I'll let you go. So one is, you mentioned that you have some internal studios producing hyper-casual games. Isn't that more cost effective than working with outside studios? Although you do work with lots of outside studios, so I'm assuming the reason you do.
Yeah, it's a good question. We do offer. I'm sad for our internal teams. We do not offer multi-million-dollar payouts for games internally, because there's a different risk profile there. If you're working for Voodoo, it's generally it's an awesome environment, and you get paid well, and so the payouts are definitely not the same. But the cost structure is different. It's just a bit different, I'd say. And the truth is, publishing has always been and will always be, I think, maybe I'm biased, but will always be the most important part of our business. Working with so many fantastic studios around the world that are so great at what they do, and you can't really scale creativity and innovation, and that, I think, also comes to a large extent from teams that are working out there, whether you're 1, 2, or 5 people.
Absolutely. Okay, I've got kind of like one final question that's in 2 parts. From my side, I'm always being told constantly about, this will be the end of the year that hyper-casual is over. It's definitely going. It can't possibly sustain itself. Doesn't seem to work that way each year. It seems to kind of go the opposite way. So, what's your take on that? Presumably, that's your business, hyper-casual. I'm assuming you're not shutting up shop just yet. So, and as part of that, I guess, are you seeing through the current situation a particular marked increase in engagement? Because in a way, hyper-casual games are the easiest for a widest audience to get in.
Yeah. So, well, first off, I think in terms of the current situation, I hope, everyone, the priority for us is that everyone is kind of safe and healthy as can be. And I think, it is a tough time for the world and for the economy. And if there's no way we can say this is a positive thing, and that's not what you're saying. For hyper casual in particular, yes, it means obviously short-term, more engagement, more downloads, and that's great for hyper casual. But midterm, I think you'll see CPMs and monetization level off, and so I think the impact on hyper casual is going to be kind of canceled out. I think it'll be similar to, which is great. I mean, what a position to be in going into a potentially economic crisis, to be stable and growing. So just going back to the first part of your question, I think our user base is growing globally. Markets are becoming available, like China, in a way that they weren't a year ago. The market and the pie is growing significantly. And so, hyper casual gaming is here to stay for me, because it's not really gaming. It's a very large market, much larger than gamers, much broader than gamers, and it's a different engagement. And it really, no matter how many PS4s you're selling, people will still be commuting to work or playing in the schoolyard, and they'll be doing that with hyper casual games. As for, are we worried as a publisher? I think there's another phenomenon you're seeing, which we were worried about maybe a year or 2 ago, and we've grown to learn. There will always be kind of new entrants, newcomers to the market that are trying it out because they kind of see the success that other publishers have had before. We've been lucky to be around for a little while and to grow into a very large, actually, but nimble and effective company that focuses, I think, on the right things at the right time. And to get that scale, and therefore that that firepower is very hard to do in today's market. So I think for new entrants, it is a tough publishing market. It's a great for studios, I think. And the second thing is, you're seeing, I think, just coming back to the point that was mentioned before me, you're seeing some publishers coming in and looking for ad space in the top 10 charts, and that's fine. But as a studio, it's a bit misleading because you're expecting certain payouts based on download numbers that you saw in the past with publishers like Voodoo, and that you continue to see today with Voodoo. But then you're getting payouts where the margins are razor thin, So what we're seeing is actually some studios are, are really converting back from these alternative propositions because they realized, despite massive download success, for me as a studio, it doesn't really translate into large payouts.
Fair enough. Final question is more of a praise, right? There's a less of a question but a comment to someone. Just want to thank Alex and his team for being very transparent with all of Voodoo's learnings, especially on the YouTube channel. It's a great service for the industry. So a bit of love for you there. And I don't think, and the last question is, in one or two, easy one, in one or two words, what is the hyper-casual trend genre that a developer should focus on in 2020? Easiest question.
Easiest question, right? Well, I'm not sure the person was listening. I think that, I think the trends are a mix of things. They're usually inspirations in very powerful initial games, and so I think you'll be seeing, more and more focus on the ideation phase as studios learn that innovation and kind of, clear but very fresh visuals and gameplays are always going to outperform. So yeah, I'm not committing to too much there, but I do think
innovate. That's what you want. You want people coming with innovative ideas. That's the whole.
Yeah, exactly. I think innovation and the other thing is that if you do see a trend, it tends to last 3 months, right? So not the whole year.
By the time you've developed the game, the trend's moved on, right? So